Well, component should be named in Pascal naming convention, maybe. So let's do that. And we have column. So column will be component dot new, and we have to make that. It's a wrapper. So everything will become the children, right? Hmm. So let's say we have some variable number of arguments, which is the um, those will be just the children's. Each of them, each of the argument for the column component will be a another UI component. So yeah, that's all. Well, we can say that it will be children return with a tag equals to column, and that will be value nothing children. So parameter children will be a UI component array. And that could be anything, like here the value could be anything, it doesn't matter. So what's the next thing? Let's make a row as well. All right, then we have to do the same thing, but there is a simple property here. Okay, we will do that. Just wait a minute. Hmm. So the tag will be a row, and children's will be the parameter. Same, right? That's all. Now we have to change the renderer so that it will behave. I mean, it should recognize those two new components, right? So how are we gonna do that? Currently, this is the component. This is the parent component that we are rendering. And if there is a text, then we just insert the value, try to make it a string, and just insert that value into the lines. And wait just a minute. Okay, so fine. So we are just inserting a new value into the lines. So it will be represented as, how to say that? So these lines will be rendered in a new line, right? Each and every line which is stored in this line will be rendered in its separated new line. So we have to, so this is correct, I think. This is correct. Mm, this is kind of correct. Now we just have to introduce those as well, like if you have any components like that, right? Wait just a minute. Let's just have some plans for that. So if you have a tag which is the column, then we have to traverse the children's, right? And after making the children's, I mean, after traversing the children's, how we handle the inline property and the block property. So in column, everything should be rendered in a new line, right? Each string should have their own line, and no other string will be there in the same line. That's how column works. And if we are talking about a row, then a row will be inline. So every element contained in the row will be inline, right? So we have to render all the strings, I mean, all the value in the row component. So every value contained in a row should be rendered in a same line, right? So that's the motto. And let's see how we can implement that thing. So should we concatenate that thing? Hmm. So we are rendering those things in a line, right. Wait just a minute. Instead of that, instead of returning that, we can return an array, right? A two-dimensional array like that. So we can return a two-dimensional array, okay, like that. That will be fine. So we will return a two-dimensional array of render line. That makes sense. And what next? So if we have a column component, then all of its children will be rendered on a different line, right? Yeah, that's kind of a thing. Hmm. So if component dot tag equals to a row property or maybe a column, let's resolve column first, right? So if component is a column property, I mean, if it's a column component, then we have to traverse through the children's, right? Let's see how NeoGit do that. If I go to renderer like that, and so it keeps track of indexes as well. I don't know why, but it is what it is. Hmm. So what is a line? A line is just a string, I guess. Render buffer. So line is just an array of string, not a big deal. So here we are rendering the thing. What's the next thing? So render Render row, render column. So how do we render the column? So render call is just it depends on this render thing. So we have parent, we have children, and we have a column. Column is an integer. Okay, this is the starting thing. Got it. So it's a generic rendering function, uh, which will use as both a row and the column component. So let's see how these things work. First, we are building the child. That's just, I mean, they are just assigning some, I mean, updating some values related to the positioning, right? Yeah, that's the whole thing. What's the next thing? We are so we are building a child. That's that. And then we child in a row. Render child in a row. Hmm. And where's this function? Render child. So what it does? Add section. Hmm. So we have some indexes. Let's see if Claude can understand this code, right? Let's see. Let's do in the previous chat where we implement the rendering module. Uh, Analyze the following rendering module. Yeah, and explain how this renderer is able to, I mean, renderer manages multiple words, renders multiple components in components in this schema. Oh, shoot. I didn't provide the code. So here it is. All right, so analyzing this rendering module, here's how it's handled multiple core mechanism, row versus column rendering. Currently rendering component inline, nested row. Oh, so we have some in row and some action going on in row, in nested row, in row and in nested row. What is this thing? Nested row within a row. So I think those flags are just to indicate whether we are rendering in a row or we are in a nested row. I think those cases will be handled differently, I guess. How inline rendering works: when encountering a row component, the renderer switches modes. So render row switches it. Okay. Okay. And in nested row, in nested row, those things here, render in row. Okay, so if we are rendering a row inside a row, then this will activate it automatically. And here we, okay, got it. Beautiful. So we have some switches, right? Diagram flags in nested row. Okay, so if we are in nested row, column start. So this is a text and this is the highlights. All right, all right, all right. So if we are in a nested row, then we do that. Okay, wait just a minute. So this thing is for when we are rendering just in a column. So if we are rendering in a column, I mean not in a row. So if we are rendering in, I mean not in a row, then we do this. We build a child and we render the child as it is. So let's split that thing and go a little downwards and see. We categorize those things like that. Render text, render column, and a render row. How render text works. Render, wait just a bit. We can go into the definition for that. So render text is just taking a component and get the highlights of it. Then we have buffer highlights. Starting position. So we are pushing the highlight, right? We are pushing the highlight and we save the positions as well. Makes sense. So that's not a problem. We just simply add the highlights, not a big deal. That's completely fine. And what's the next thing? How we render a column? Simple. So it's not a big deal, right? So we are continuing the recursion. So we just continue the recursion right here. So we are just continue the recursion for column and row. Makes sense. By default, we are rendering in column wise. And if we want to render in a row, then we use this one, which just enable some flags. So child position row and child dot options section. There are some fold action going on, and this is virtual text. So if it is a virtual text, then we have some options here. The combine mode, this is the best option for the use case. And the right align. What is the right align thing? I don't know. What is a right align thing? Ext marks right align. This one. Display right align in the window. Display right aligned in the window. Okay, I got it. Where is this text coming from? Um, so this is the text, and what we are doing with this text actually, we're just passing in that thing. So render child in a row. This one. So if that child is a text, then we just render in row text. Otherwise, render in row. And if we didn't match any, then that's all. So ultimately, the conclusion is we have to render everything in column wise. And if we have a flag on, which is the row, if the row flag is enabled, then we will render everything in a, what to say? I mean, let's just see how the buffer lines are looking like in UI init, and let's do a renderer like here, and let's do bring renderer, not this one, vim.inspect renderer dot buffer dot line like that, and I have to do just one thing, which is go to the editor settings, or maybe just go to the NeoGit and disable this thing and enable a directory workspace development and the NeoGit like that. Oh, it is. Oh, wrong one. So let's see how this thing looks. I think I choose the wrong thing. Wait just a minute. If I go to UI init and I want to just vim.print instead of inspect like that. So let's do that again. So what do we have? So if we have this string, okay. All right, all right, all right. Let's just wait just a minute. Render dot buffer dot highlights. Let's just output the highlights as well. So if I do this, you can see here. Okay, from this column to this column. Okay, I mean this line, and from 0 to 6 column, we have this highlight group. So this is how highlights works. Yeah, that's cool. That's perfect. So what we are doing here, we have this line. I mean, this is a row, I guess, and this is another row from where to where. So from here to here, this one only. Oh, maybe I think I messed up a little. So let's do UI init and just only renders the line. I have a decent idea how highlights working, so it's not a big deal. So let's open NeoGate and let's do this thing. Okay. So we have this. This is one row, I guess. This is another row, which ending where? Which ends where? Um. Okay. Leash. And then we have merged this thing. Okay, I got it. I got it. So ultimately, we are rendering the set of lines, nothing complicated. That's cool. So if I do, let's just exit out of here, remove this line, and let's just follow those same principle to render our UI as well. Let me just mention here what we are doing. Um, Optimizing render plugin rendering with diffing algorithm similar to React. So this should indicate what we are doing here, right? That's it. So let's see how we gonna do that thing. So let's suppose hmm All right then. What's the next thing then? If you have a text, then I think we are categorizing this thing in a wrong way, right? How difficult is to render things in a what to say, in a table of string, right? How difficult is this thing? So let's say we have a component which is a lot complex than a text component. A text component is just returning values without having any children. So let's say we have a complex component which have children's as a component, and those children's also have children's consisting of components, right? So let's say this is a lot complex UI component we have, and how we um, how we handle these two components. Where it is this components, this one. So how are we gonna handle these two components? Because these two components have some properties, like column component always render its children in new line, and the row component always render its children in the same line. So we have to achieve this property, which is in the um, this one. So we have to change the renderer for that. So let's start from the beginning, how a line can be rendered, right? So if we are talking about just the components for specifically for the text component, we have what do we have to do to render this component? So to render this component, we just simply stringify this value and we append that into the line. That's all. And what's the purpose of, wait just a minute. What's the purpose of render in, what do we have? Index. What is this index? I don't get it. Old index, new index. I don't get it. So if I do render index like that, so render index is just a table, nothing complicated. Hi Zainab, welcome to the live stream. So we have this thing. This is a structure for a highlight. So we are highlighting from a position like a column and a this thing to the end column, like start column and end column and the name of the highlight group. That's the thing. Oh, I'm so sorry, Zainab. I didn't see it, but I don't get the time and I kind of forgot about that. Is there anything that for me? I mean, if there is anything important, then just call me. Um, so how we can do that? So these are the render flags, right? So these are the lines and the highlights. On top of we have ext marks, line highlights. Yeah, this is the same thing. I was so busy on implementing this new diffing algorithm in the rendering module. So I don't have any time to, I mean, it's kind of, I almost forgot about those things. So I have to finish this thing as soon as I can because there are a lot of features that I want to implement for this plugin, and I'm completely lagging behind with those features. It's okay. I will check it out later if I remember. I mean, yeah, lame me, but if I have time, then I will definitely check out this channel. Don't. Thanks for catching by. Catch you later. I'm just understanding how this thing's working, like how NeoGit is able to render those things uh, in row and column wise, right? I mean, that's not an easy thing to do. I know, I mean, I'm not sure they are using a diffing algorithm or not. I'm not sure about that. So let's see if we have, let's ask the Claude. Uh, uh, are we using any uh, diffing technique to optimize the rendering? Looking at this, there is no diffing algorithm. Okay, so that's all I need. So NeoGit doesn't use diffing algorithms. I mean, they don't really need that because there are not so many things to render at the same time. But our plugin definitely needs that, because if we are rendering too many files at the same time, then we need a what to say, a pagination thing. So we have to have a much more controlled way of rendering things. Like if we have, let's say, 1 million files, well, how we can, I mean, this is a hypothetical scenario, but let's say if we have 1000 lines, 1000 files structure, right? I mean, it's pretty common to have 1000 files in your code base. So, I mean, bigger code base. This code is not mine. This comes from the NeoGit plugin. They have a pretty good rendering technique. So I'm just kind of curious how they are doing those things. So currently, I want to make those two components work. This component responsible for rendering its children in a separated line, and this component is responsible for rendering its children in the same line. So I want to achieve that thing, and NeoGit does that thing out of the box. So I'm understanding how those things are working. And please don't tell me just copy this component, I mean this module, and use it, because they are doing so many things which is unnecessary for us. So we have to implement our own minimalistic renderer, which we can extend even further for diffing algorithm, because this renderer doesn't use any diffing, but we need to have diffing in our plugin, because our file manager have so many responsibilities, like watching things, like watching the file system. So if we are watching a file system, and let's say you open a file explorer in a bigger code base, and everything is open, like every folder is open, and let's say you created some external processes. some external process creates some file. Let's say a single file was created in that directory, and the watcher observe that file, then it observer then requests to the renderer to render that missing puzzle piece in the screen. Then if you go to the naive approach or maybe the traditional approach, then traditional approach will simply render the whole page, which is not an good thing for a perspective. So let's say you have thousands of lines on your screen, and if you just render whole thousand of lines just for a single line of change, then that's kind of a waste of performance. So we need a diffing algorithm to differentiate between the old rendering and the latest rendering. Then we can find the differences between them and only update the differences. In that way, we can optimize the performance of renderer. This is kind of a React thing. I mean, this is how React works under the hood. They just build up the trees, and they compare the DOM with their virtual DOM, and after calculating the diffs, they find the best algorithm for diffing so that we can find the exact differences between two trees, and then we render those changes onto the DOM. So, so this is we are trying to achieve in Lua as well. Unfortunately, NeoGit doesn't uh, do that because they don't need to have a diffing technique to optimize the rendering.